graphy to photography. And so we try as much as possible to give them the opportunity to run the show. Such a wonderful blessing to be able to have them learning these wonderful skills for their lives, because obviously not all of them are going to grow up to become priests or to take sannyas, nor is that our goal. Our goal is for them to, as Puja Swamiji says, give them wings and let them fly. So welcome again to Satsang. And it's so beautiful to be together. It's such a wonderful blessing every evening to come together and in that presence of the truth, that association of the truth. We begin, as usual, with one of the questions that comes in from our global family. As Puja Swamiji mentioned this evening, our whole family from all around the world joins us for Aarti, joins us for Satsang. So people are connected. It's so wonderful, this gift of technology, to be able to have Ganga Aarti, have Satsang reaching people's homes wherever they live in the world. So we begin usually with a question that's come in from them to remind them that we are all with them, even if they're not here physically. Why do we resist change? In general, we resist anything that's unfamiliar. We know this fear of the unknown. And on a purely evolutionary level, it's actually smart. If our ancestors embraced the unknown, suddenly there was a sound, they didn't know what it was, but they went out of their hut and they thought, okay, come on in, whatever you are, whoever you are. Chances are they would get trampled by some wild animal, killed by some warring tribe next door. That fear of the unknown is actually very evolutionarily advantageous on a physical survival level. If I don't know what something is, it's pretty smart not to eat it. Unless someone you know and love has handed it to you, at which point you trust them, you eat it. But this fear of the unknown is something that has kept us alive for a long time. And we are here, again, purely just Darwinian evolution in that tradition, that lineage, that awareness. We're here because our ancestors were the ones who were afraid of the unknown noise, of the unknown sight, of the unknown food. And so they were careful. They took precautions. Therefore, they were the ones who lived long enough to procreate. That's why we're here. We are the descendants of those who were afraid of the unknown. Otherwise, in the middle of the night, in the dark, you can't see, you don't know where you're going. A fearlessness at that time is very likely to get you eaten, killed, trampled on. So that fear of the unknown kept them alive, and it's what has been passed down to us genetically over all these hundreds of millions of years. However, most of our fear of the unknown is not the physical survival stuff. We are not in a situation now where we have to wander through a jungle, a forest, an unknown area in the dark. We're getting in our car and driving home from work and the GPS is telling us where to turn. We go anywhere, we've got our phone with a flashlight. Google to tell us, face recognition. Here's a thing coming toward me. Hey Google, what is it? Friendly or not? So our fear of the unknown is no longer that which it was for our ancestors. The fear of the unknown now is much more on the level of the ego. It's no longer on the level of the body. It's no longer, I am afraid I am going to die in this forest, in this jungle, with this animal I've never seen before coming toward me. It's, I'm afraid to take a risk because, oh my God, what's going to happen? It's, I'm afraid of something new, a new situation, a new experience, a new way of being. And that's why we resist change, because we already know our current situation. And what's tragic about it is when we are suffering, we still resist change. You would think that we'd say, okay, this is not working, I'm suffering. Let me change. Let me develop a new way. I'm depressed, I'm anxious. I'm turning to alcohol or drugs or food or gambling or shopping. I'm constantly judgmental, I'm jealous, I'm competitive, I feel horrible about myself. My relationships don't work. Time for change. But we don't. We stay in exactly the same situation because that pain is familiar. We know it. And this is where we don't take that risk to actually change. But this is what spirituality does for us, because it gives us faith. See, if I'm going to leap into something, I have to have faith in what I am leaping into. My favorite example of this is the swimming pool. If you've ever been in any public place with a swimming pool, a hotel, a park, a condo complex, what you'll see so frequently are little kids, toddlers, on the edge of the pool, and they've got a mother, a father in the pool with their arms up saying, jump, jump. The kid's got the floaties on their arms, but it's clearly his or her first time at the swimming pool. And the mom or dad is yelling, it's okay, jump. And the poor kid is terrified, kind of running back up and down the length of the pool, going, ah. And from inside the pool, they're saying, jump, jump, it's okay. And the kid, ah. But eventually, the child jumps. Because they trust the arms they're jumping into. They trust the voice saying it's okay. And then, of course, they love it. They squeal with delight. They say again, 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 again. And they make the mom or the dad catch them over and over and over again. But so many of us live like that child on the edge of the pool. We're afraid to jump because we don't trust the voice saying it's okay. And so we live our lives stuck literally on this edge of the pool. All of the joy, the excitement, everything is happening in the water. Everybody we know and love is in the water. But we're afraid and we don't trust. So we don't jump. And this is where spirituality is so important, because it connects us with that divine universe, with God, with spirit, with source, however you think of the divine, so that we trust the universe. You know, so many of us in school or in our corporate world, we do this team building exercise called a trust fall, right? I don't know if they do it so much in India. In America, they do it a lot, where you've got someone standing behind you, and you put your arms out like this, and you close your eyes, and you're supposed to just fall backwards into their arms with the awareness that they will catch you. And it's used in schools, in companies, in communities to build team building. But what's so interesting is that so frequently the person behind you is someone you don't know, a stranger. Maybe you've just passed them at the water cooler or the coffee pot, but you don't actually know them. And in some cases, they may even be a competitor, the schoolyard bully. And yet, we always drop back because we know they will catch us. We know they're not going to let us just fall into the ground. And so if we've got that much faith in a stranger, in a competitor, in an enemy, we've got to have that much faith in God, in the universe, which is going to catch us. So don't resist change. It's good to know why you do it. But what you've got to realize is that your current misery, whatever it may be, is not how you are supposed to live. But you've got to take that trust fall into the universe, knowing the universe is going to catch me. I'm falling into the arms of the divine. And then you fall back, or you leap forward, depending on however you think about it. A swimming pool or a trust fall. But you owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself to do that. And by the way, the vast majority of change that's meaningful is internal change. It's not about one city to another city, one job to another job, one marriage to another marriage. It's not so much that. It's the internal situation that is making this job, this city, this marriage, this situation, one that is causing me misery. And so most of the change is in my way of dealing with things, in my way of thinking about things, in my way of living. So decide from today, you're on the banks of Ganga. No more resisting change. I'm going to embrace it. Because I'm falling into the universe. And the universe is going to catch me. And that change is really just blossoming. I mean, a seed changes when it allows itself to be sprouted into a tree, right? The caterpillar changes as it becomes a butterfly. But imagine if they resisted that change. We would have no trees and no butterflies. So like them, we embrace it. But we recognize that most of the change is inside ourselves. It's not about the outer world. Because we create that same outer world wherever we go, based on our own inner world. That's why we say, right? Jaise drishti vaise shrishti. As I see, so is the creation. So we work on the inside. Does anyone here have any questions? I'd be happy to take any questions that anyone here may have. Yes, of course.
Sadhviji, day before yesterday you were talking about the mantra meditation, and also you spoke about the awareness. And in one instance, you also talked about that we come to a state where we are aware when we can witness, our mind witnesses our own mantra reading. So what is that like after this stage, when your mind start witnessing your other mind chanting, or maybe whatever it may be, what is the next stage? What is that we can feel? What is that what is that we see? And what is the next step after when your mind starts witnessing your own mind reciting the mantra?
Beautiful.
That point of awareness, what is next?
So let's take it back for those who weren't with us a few days ago. We were speaking about really levels of awareness and consciousness, and how when we begin to meditate, the first step is simply to be aware. That single-pointed focus. We bring the awareness onto one thing. Our breath, let's say. And we are aware of the breath. Aware of the breath. And we try to literally, I always say, to merge the awareness with the breath, so that it's just, you're only aware of the breath. There's just the breathing. So that's stage one, is I am aware. Well, stage one is just I'm breathing. Stage two is I am aware of my breathing. But then stage three is a very interesting place, because it's the mind that is aware that I'm breathing. So in that single pointed focus, all of my mind, all of my attention, all of my focus, all of my awareness is centered on my breath. Okay? Then we go to another level, which is, you can think about it higher or deeper. For me, on a personal level, it actually feels like I've taken a step back. It doesn't feel like I've gone up or down, but rather that I've taken a step back. And that's the state where we are aware that we are aware. And that stage is when we speak about consciousness. Now, the state of simply being aware is a beautiful place. That's the state of awareness. It's the state of meditation. Because while right now I'm aware of the breath, let's say, but then a thought arises. And of course, instead of hooking myself into the thought, I'm simply aware for a moment there was a thought. I notice it. I'm aware of it. And then again, I'm aware of my breath. Then I have an itchy knee. I'm aware of the itch in my knee. Then I'm back to awareness of the breath. Then my phone rings. I realize I forgot to turn it off. I am aware for a moment of the ringing of my phone. Maybe I'm even aware of the slight increase in my heartbeat as the phone rings, because there's a little voice that says, maybe it's urgent. So I'm aware of that. I'm just aware. The phone is ringing. My heart rate has increased a little. We'll call that anxiety. And then I'm aware of the breath. So awareness on that level is what's constant. And that's a very, by the way, beautiful and high and deep level to reach. Don't think about it as like a middle level. It's actually a very high, very deep, and very difficult level to reach to, where you are simply aware. You are anchored in awareness, there's breathing, then there's a thought, then there's an itch, now there's a heartbeat. But I am anchored in awareness which doesn't change. What I'm aware of changes, but awareness doesn't change. It's like I'm looking at you right now using my eyes. Now I'm looking at you using my eyes. Now I'm looking at you using my eyes. Now I'm looking at you using my eyes. Well, my eyes aren't changing. My ability of sight isn't changing. But what I'm seeing is changing. In the same way, when you reach the state of being in awareness, where what you are aware of may be changing, but you are anchored not in the changing object, but you are anchored in the subject, which is the one who is aware. Like I am anchored in the one who is seeing, rather than anchored in the different people I am seeing. See, one way to do this is suddenly I'm anchored in you. What you look like, what you might be thinking, then I'm anchored in you, what you look like, what you might be thinking. But we know how distracting and disturbing and non-meditative that is. So instead, I anchor in sight. I am the one seeing. What I am seeing is varying, but I'm not worried about it. I'm not thinking, oh, this one's fatter than this one's thinner than this one's taller. I'm just seeing. So in the same way, I'm anchored in awareness of my breath, of a mantra, of a momentary distraction, of a ringing phone, of an itch. Then, and again, remember, that is a very high and deep and difficult stage. However, that's not the end. There's another stage, which is, as I said, for me, it feels like I've taken a step back. And there is an experience of being aware of awareness. And that, it's not focused on any particular thing. See, like my sight is on you, or the awareness is on the breath, or on an itch, whatever it may be. In this level, it's just pure consciousness. I'm just conscious that there is awareness. And that's that other state. It's not, nothing is varying at all. I'm simply conscious of awareness. And so if you find that you get to that beautiful, high, deep state of being anchored in awareness, hold that for a while. And then just see what happens if you imagine yourself taking a step back. How do you know you're aware? Who's aware that you're aware? Who is the one anchored in awareness? Right? We say anchor in awareness. Well, who's anchored in awareness? The mind is fixed on the breath or the knee or the... So it's not the mind. Right? Awareness is aware of the mind. So then who's aware that I'm aware? Exactly. Our consciousness, exactly. We are conscious that we are aware. And by the way, I don't worry very much about semantics. If you want to say aware that you're aware, or conscious that you're conscious, that's also fine. I don't get too worked up in the semantics. For me, I think about it as consciousness as the undivided field into which I can step that is simply conscious of awareness. Whereas awareness is more focused, to me. But I wouldn't hold anybody to that. You can use whatever words you want. But that's that other step. And it's a very beautiful experience. Because then there is no next layer. Then there just is. There just is. And it's unbroken. It just is. Beautiful. Are there any other questions that anyone here has? Yes, we'll take this as the last one.
A lot of times we like to think what other people think of us, and sometimes people do get bogged down by it as to what someone else might think of me. How would one guide themselves to not be affected by all the negativity that flows around?
Beautiful and very important.
If I can add to this question.
Of course.
So, a lot of time people live their lives trying to please someone else, whereas some people want to live life to please themselves. And they believe that if they are happy, they can spread happiness.
Yes.
So,
Beautiful.
very connected question.
So, an expanded question. How do we not be so worried about what other people think? And do we live trying to please others or please ourselves, knowing that if I'm happy, I will spread happiness? Those of you who have been coming to satsang or listening to satsang for a while will know that I am a very big proponent of not worrying at all about what the neighbors are going to say, about what Samne Wale thinks. Now, that doesn't mean that we are not polite. Okay? I mean, so, I don't pass gas in public. Right? I mean, just it seems like a kind of a rude thing to do. You care that people around you should not be subject to a bad smell. So you observe what we call general social niceties, politeness. We bathe so that other people should not be subject to the bad smell of our body. We choose our words in public in a way so as not to offend somebody. Right? I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can say something. But we do so in such a way as to not unnecessarily offend people. But beyond social niceties and general politeness, right? You're not going to sit at a table with a lot of people and eat with your mouth wide open and make everybody look at the food moving around in your mouth. Beyond that, the dilemma becomes when all of our lives are focused on what is this person saying about me? What does this person think about me? Wo kya sochenge, ye kya sochenge? And our whole lives go. So starting with part 2 and then moving back to part 1. I absolutely do not think that we should live according to pleasing others. And here's why. It's not just having to do with our own personal dharma, but it's actually on a much deeper level. If we don't live how we would be happy, simply to keep others happy, not only are we not serving ourselves, but we are not serving them. We are actually preventing them from having the challenging opportunity of having to be in a situation where what they want isn't what's happening. Which means that then their whole way of thinking has to change. Their whole attachment has to change. Their whole agenda has to change. Because when we are focused only on pleasing them, it's like we are saying they are not strong enough to handle it any other way. I think on a personal level, when I decided to move to India, then when I decided to take sannyas, meaning I was not going to be popping out babies, aside from everything else, but that was the one piece that mattered to my parents. Like, we don't care what you wear, we don't care any of that, but what do you mean you're not going to be giving babies? They have an agenda, right? Grandchildren. And it was very clear to me, very, very clear to me, that my dharma was to be here, that I was meant to be here. And that even though it was not obviously what my parents had envisioned in terms of me living down the block, that this is exactly what I was meant to do. But for me not to do it because they were not going to be happy, not only would be not doing my dharma, but it would have prevented them from having the experiences that they've had over these 25 years that transformed them. By having a daughter coming from a non-religious Jewish family, moving into India, taking sannyas, living in an ashram, becoming spiritual, it has transformed them. It wasn't just a matter of sankarnika. It has actually transformed them in the most beautiful way. But to not do it is to say, you know what, you guys can't handle the difficulty. You can't handle the challenge. You can't handle the upset. You need me to not live my life because I need to protect you from the frustration, the stress, the anxiety you're going to have by me not living according to your agenda. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. And you make some sacrifices. I actually offered my mother, this is a personal story I don't think I've ever shared publicly. I actually offered my mother, before I took sannyas, I was taking sannyas in June of 2000, and Pujya Swamiji had sent me back to get their blessings. I had been back in December, Jan, Feb, something like that. And my mom, of course, had the whole, what do you mean no grandchildren thing? And I said, look, I will actually do something for you. I said, if you really want a grandchild, I'm an only child, so I was their only option. I said, if you really want a grandchild, I will postpone taking sannyas. I don't have to take it in June. I can take it in September, October, November. There's no Muhurt of the year 2000. I can take it in 2001. I said, I will go out. I will get myself pregnant. I hadn't taken vows yet. I will carry a child. And then I will give it to you. I said, I am prepared to give you the next 9 months, 10 months in terms of, finding somebody and negotiating the whole thing of my life. But I'm not prepared to not live my life. So if what you want are the next 9, 10 months of my life, I will do it. But do not think that I'm then going to raise it. That I'm going to not live the life I'm supposed to live and instead move down the block and raise the child. I said, so you think about that, because I really happily, no resentment at all, no grudges, no nothing. I will do this for you. You've given me everything. I'll go out, I'll get pregnant, I'll carry a child, I'll give him to you, or her to you. And my mom thought about it and came back and decided that that was not what she wanted. But the truth is, I would have done it, and I would not have resented her. I would not have held a grudge. I would have done it very happily with the opportunity to provide. So it's not that we don't make sacrifices along the way. We just don't sacrifice the big picture. Because as you said, only when we are peaceful and happy can we spread peace and happiness. To live something that is not our dharma, not our heart. Not only does it ruin our life, but it also ruins any opportunity we would have to be an asset on planet Earth, because then we are miserable. We're grumpy, we're cranky, we're resentful, we're holding grudges. It's all our mind can think about. And we then spread misery to others. We want others to be miserable as well. Even if we're not consciously aware of it, we do it. Jaise main fase hue hoon, well, tum bhi fas jaoge. Coming back now to part one, so what do we do about people not thinking well of us, or that fear that they won't? You become very clear in your relationship with yourself, your relationship with God, and your relationship with anyone else who you know really wants the best for you. And as long as you are clear with them, you decide that that's going to be your barometer. When I first moved to India, everyone and their brother had an opinion about how I should be dressing, how I should be sitting, how I should be speaking, what I should be doing. I mean, India's India. I was a young American who didn't really know anything, and everyone had opinions. And not only would they say, I think it would be better if you could. It was frequently like, this is wrong, that's wrong. And I finally decided, you know what? As long as I'm good with God, and I'm good with my guru, like if I'm doing something wrong, my guru is going to tell me that I'm doing something wrong. And as long as I'm good with God in terms of my inner intention, my inner bhav, my inner path, and as long as my guru isn't telling me that I'm doing anything else wrong, I'm really going to stop worrying about it, because it kind of drove me crazy a lot in the beginning. Because I wanted to be doing the right thing. And of course I was very worried. Aise na ho, I make a horrible mistake. Aise na ho, I get kicked out of here. I used to really worry about getting kicked out of here. So I thought, aise na ho, I make a mistake. And it used to really disturb me. And I spoke to Puja Swamiji about it one day. And he said, don't worry. He said, your heart is so pure and clean. He said, I will tell you if you're making a mistake somewhere. He said, and the basics are very simple. I mean, by that point, I had already figured them out in terms of what clothes are supposed to look like, how you're supposed to sit. It's very simple. It's not rocket science. And it's not a million things. It's like 5 things, basically. And he said, anything else, I'll let you know. He said, don't worry. And I've lived 25 years like that. So what I would say to you is, become very clear with God. Become clear with your guru. And there may be another 1 or 2 or 3 people in your life whose opinions you really trust, and who you know really want the best for you. It's not their agenda. It's not that they don't want their attachments rattled or their expectations rattled. It's not that their ego is so fragile that it can't handle you disobeying them. Right? I mean, so much of the time, that which we tell other people to do is just because I can't handle the stress of being disobeyed. You better do what I say. Why? Because I said it. Why? Because I told you to. Really? And the truth is, because if you don't, I'm going to be upset. I'm going to get stressed. I don't like it when I'm disobeyed. Therefore, you better obey me. But that's not a way to live. So you want to choose your people as those who really have your best interest at heart. And then don't worry about the rest. Really don't worry about the rest. Think about it as kind of background noise. Okay? Stay anchored, but stay polite to them. It's not that you tell them, Are, you're just background noise. You stay polite. Don't try to give them a teaching. A very good rule of thumb around this is, unless someone is your child or your disciple, so unless you are the parent or the guru, or unless they have come to you with folded hands and said, please guide me, nobody wants a teaching from you. It's a really good rule of thumb. No one wants it, no matter how well-intentioned you are. So don't try to give them the teaching, but just live it. Live it inside. Thank them for their opinion, if they've shared it. Move on. But don't take it inside. Pujya Swamiji speaks a lot about junk mail, right? And how we get junk mail in our inboxes all the time. But we don't get offended by it, right? I mean, if I open up my inbox and there's all these advertisements for how to increase the size of body parts that I don't even have, I'm not going to get insulted by it, right? It's not going to ruin my day. I understand it's just junk. It's just junk. You don't even open it. Somebody somewhere is sending it out. They've got their own agenda. Fine. I'm not going to hunt them down and try to kill them. But I'm not going to need therapy because I keep getting these notices in my inbox. You just delete it. You move on. You don't even pay attention. You just go through, delete, 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 delete. Or if you don't want to delete, if you've got one of those unlimited spaces in your inbox, you just scroll past it. You go to the stuff that matters. And that's what kind of all of the rest of the world's opinions of you should be. It shouldn't impact you any more than somebody trying to sell you something to increase body parts that you don't even have. Okay? Beautiful. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your evening. And a beautiful morning and day to our beloved family all over the world. And look so forward to see you all here and here tomorrow. And so much love to you all.